All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar on today. And the title of the webinar is Detroit, Michigan, the high-tech hub of the Midwest. And this is Si Wing Yi from the Yi Real Estate Network. And thank you, all of you, to log on to attend this sort of a mid-afternoon presentation. But anyway, I'm here. It's my pleasure for me to introduce the presenter, my guest speaker for today's webinar presentation, Mr. Al Bean, the founder and CEO of Pioneer Homes, our Detroit partner. And today he's going to talk about from a very high level what's going on in Detroit, and he's going to dispel all the myth versus the facts with what's going on in Detroit. And he's going to go over the tremendous opportunity that investors can have by looking into Detroit for now and in the foreseeable future. So I'm very, very excited to promote this particular opportunity. We believe we can have a very long-term buying opportunity in Detroit, but at the same time, don't wait. Do it as soon as possible for those of you out there. So again, without further ado, let me have Mr. Al Bean come on and do your thing, my friend.
Absolutely, you nailed it. You got the name right there. I appreciate doing it. It's a true pleasure to be on your pod or your webinar. I know you take a lot of pride in these, so it's a pleasure to be a part of this today.
Thank you. Thank you. Same here.
So, but yeah, so we can get into this. As CEOing said, my name is Al Bean, founder and CEO of Pioneer Homes. We have now been in the Detroit market for close to 10 years. Pioneer has sold properties to a lot of international clients. We sold properties in over 30 countries, all over the globe. A lot of domestic clients as well. So we're very versed in working with the out of state and out of country clientele. So we'll kind of get into today, and hopefully you guys learn something. So today's goal, we're going to try to show you the massive opportunity created by the Revival of Detroit and show you how to take advantage of it. What is the big domino of today's presentation? So we're going to kind of talk about Detroit as a whole, you know, the perception people have versus the reality, the do's and don'ts of real estate investing, not only in just Detroit, but in general. And we really hit on this a lot, is the importance of your real estate investment team. You know, really, if you're an investor, you have to have a solid team in place. If you don't, it's really difficult to wear all the hats that are involved in this industry. So we're going to kind of talk about that today as well. So what can Pioneer offer you? You know, one of the biggest things people have with real estate is it's just a fear. So we're going to kind of help you get over that hurdle and fear of becoming a passive and remote landlord. We're going to bring you 10 years of personal Detroit investing experience. We've already made the mistakes, and we can teach you how to avoid them. You know, we own a lot of property in the city, and it wasn't always rainbows and butterflies. I mean, we made a lot of mistakes in the beginning because Detroit is an interesting market. You really have to know where and where not to invest. So, you know, we bring that experience to the table. And whether you want to buy property in Detroit or any other market, we can show you how to be a professional investor and build real wealth from any remote location. And I think that's a big myth people have, is that they have to buy property in their backyard. And in reality, sometimes that's actually the worst thing that you can do. And we'll talk about that. And then we're going to show you why Forbes recently named Detroit the most undervalued real estate market in the country. And I don't know about you, Sewing, but if Forbes is talking about something, I like to listen to what they have to say.
That's right. I agree.
All right. So there are three false beliefs that people tend to have in real estate. Number one, it's impossible to buy properties in other states or countries. And then one about Detroit is that Detroit is a bad place. And then the only way to be successful in Detroit is to buy the cheapest properties you can find. So we're going to kind of debunk these beliefs. So you think it's impossible to invest if you don't live in that market. So again, with the right team, you can invest anywhere that you want. In fact, investors from California to New York and from China to Canada are all major players in the Detroit rental market. And for the first really 5 to 7 years that we were doing business in Detroit, I bet you 80% of our clientele was actually foreign. They were people that lived outside of the U.S. So we can vouch for the fact that there's a lot of foreign money coming into Detroit. So foreign investors continue to view the U.S. real estate as a sound investment, with an astounding 95% of those recently surveyed by AFIRE reporting that they plan to maintain or increase their investment in 2017. So that's a good indicator, because that means people still see opportunity, and that's always a good thing. So here's the first secret about real estate, whether it's in Detroit or any other market in the country. It's all about your team. And, you know, all of our clients, this is something that we really preach to them, because look, at the end of the day, we're not going to sell property to every single person we talk to, but if we can educate every single person we talk to, that's a win for us. So these are things that we always talk about. We kind of talked about their property provider. Are you using a realtor? Are you going to work with a turnkey company? You know, the most important part is your property manager. Who is your property manager? Who are you going to use? How do you know they're good? What did you do to screen them? You know, the property manager is really your make or break piece of your team. If you have a bad manager, there's a very good chance you're not going to be successful. So with Pioneer, we already have screened our property managers. We've worked with them for several years, and we can vouch for their service. Thirdly is your accountant. Especially if you're a domestic or international investor, you need to make sure that you have a great accountant. And the cool thing about real estate is there are a lot of tax advantages. So a good accountant is going to ensure that you have a lot of tax benefits, you know, a lot of write-offs. There's things that a creative accountant can help you do in real estate that maybe an average accountant cannot. So make sure you have a great accountant on your team, and it'll really increase your NOI on your investment. Your attorney, I say especially the foreign clientele, because they have a different structure in other countries for real estate. So it's important to have an attorney on your team to make sure everything that you're doing, not only with your closing documents, but with your LLC documentation, you know, if you need any banking set up, we just advise that you have an attorney to help you through these things. The other thing is your field agents. You know, that doesn't necessarily mean your realtor or your provider, but if you're kind of getting into volume, you're going to buy more than one or two. Not a bad idea to have some eyes and ears on the ground for you. Okay, Pioneer offers that. That's kind of what we provide as a turnkey provider. And then lastly is going to be your contractors. You know, if you're out there doing this on your own, you got to make sure you have great contractors. You know, I've been in this industry for 10 years now, and we have different contractors all the time. It's usually a pretty high turnover. So you have to make sure that you find good contractors. And if you can get a good contractor in your team, you take care of them, they're for sure going to take care of you. So just make sure that you have really good contractors. And so when did I learn this? So we started a property management company in 2010 and started attracting a lot of out-of-state and foreign clients. And what did we learn? When it came to the team, okay, so the clients who had they didn't have a team in place and they tried to do everything themselves. They tried to be a property manager. They tried to be a contractor. They tried to do all these things on their own. They tended to have portfolios that were not as performing as well as others. And we kind of were scratching our heads trying to figure out why that was. So after some time, and we started dealing with clients who, when they came to us, they already had a good team in place, we realized that their portfolios were performing much better. They didn't have bad tenants. They had tenants that paid on time. The properties themselves were nicer. You know, you go inside them, they seem to have better rehab. So we really noticed that the team importance, we learned this early on, and that's why we are what we are today. We've learned along the way what is important in this industry. So, but yeah, team is just something we really, really harp on. Okay, so secret number 2, Detroit is not as bad as you think. You know, it's funny. And it's gotten better over the years, but especially when we first started this business, a lot of people were very, very skeptical about Detroit because of the media. You know, the media didn't like to talk about all the positive things going on. They only focused on the bad things, you know, the crime rates, the bankruptcy, you know, everything, you know, Kwame Kilpatrick. So that is really all the people heard about. They didn't hear about the good things. So we're going to talk about some of those good things today. Okay, so Detroit, ROI is in the name. You know, I don't know if it's a coincidence or we just have some really brilliant marketing people that notice this, but yeah, that's why Detroit's so popular. It's a very high ROI city, and we'll kind of talk about that today as well. So when investing in real estate, what's the number one consideration? Everybody knows the number one rule is location, location, location. Okay, led by the likes of Dan Gilbert, who is the owner of Quicken Loans. He also owns the Cleveland Cavaliers and a bunch of other companies. JP Morgan Chase, CEO Jamie Dimon, the Ilitch family, athlete Magic Johnson, and actor Mark Wahlberg. Seems like everyone is investing here in Detroit. Madonna even tweeted at Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos to recommend investing in Detroit, calling it one of the coolest cities in America. And for those of you that don't know, Detroit actually presented their pitch to Amazon today to try to get them to get their headquarters here. And I think Detroit actually partnered up with Canada. I think it was Windsor or Toronto, I'm not sure, to kind of tag team this pitch. And, you know, Amazon is going to supposedly pick a destination within the next, I think early next year. So I tell you what, if Amazon ends up coming to Detroit, it's going to be a feeding frenzy out here. I don't even know what's going to happen. It's going to be very interesting. So yeah, Realtor.com, CNBC, Business Insider, Home Union, The Street, and Mash Pfizer have all recently listed Detroit as one of the 10 best cities for real estate investing. And let's not forget, guys, Forbes just ranked Detroit rental market as one of the most undervalued in the entire country. So being here on a day-to-day basis, I can vouch for the values. You know, it was crazy. I was actually personally on the MLS today looking at properties, and there's a couple areas on the east side that we call East English Village. We saw a house today on the MLS. It was a 3,000 square foot home listed for $219,000. And most of you are sitting there going, wow, that's really cheap. Well, relatively speaking, that's very high in Detroit. We were buying houses in East English Village 5 or 6 years ago for $20,000, and now they're selling for $200,000. Now they're not all selling for $200,000. This was a huge house. It was at a crazy, beautiful, immaculate rehab. But the fact that those are on the market right now, to me, is just an amazing indicator of the market. Now you can still get a house in East English Village. We just sold a house in East English Village, not as big, not as nice, but I think we sold that home for about $50,000. With probably $20,000 or $30,000 in equity in day one. So when Forbes says it's the most undervalued, that's why, because you can go out and buy a house for $50,000 or $60,000 that has equity instantly without having to do a whole lot of work. So, and then Bloomberg, we were just featured by Bloomberg a couple months ago. You can kind of Google that and read the article, but it talks about me, how I got into the industry, talks about Pioneer Homes and what we do with our clients. So, you know, it was a real honor to get picked up by Bloomberg, and, you know, just kind of validates that what we're doing in Detroit is a good thing. And I think it's getting a lot of national attention. So that was a really high point for us. Back here. So why Detroit? You know, everybody sees what's going on downtown, and the thing is, downtown is not done. I mean, in my opinion, they're just getting started. But there's a lot of trendy restaurants, techno and rock festivals, a lot of really cool destinations down there for that. Scenic and social parks, newly paved biking lanes, curated walkways, and a redesigned riverfront are redefining downtown Detroit. You know, it seems like every 3-4 months, Detroit is coming out with this new project on the riverfront. You know, I think there was an $85 million project that started last year. Part of the Amazon pitch was they're going to give Amazon a huge chunk of the riverfront to overlook the Detroit River, which will be an amazing location for them. So just a lot of really cool things going on down there. And then also Detroit is now home to 4 high-profile professional sports teams: the Detroit Lions, Pistons, Tigers, and Red Wings. So that means we're the only city in the country that has 4 of the major sports teams within walking distance of each other, which is really, really cool. The Pistons actually just moved down here this year, and the influx of business that is going to bring to the city of Detroit is going to be astounding, and we're really excited about that. And in the works, they're talking about a Major League Soccer team, so we all have our fingers crossed that they can pull that off as well. Major corporations with headquarters or major office centers downtown include Quicken Loans. Dan Gilbert had already invested $19 billion by the end of 2016. If anybody didn't know that, that's a lot of money. But GM, Ally Financial, Little Caesars, HP, Ernst & Young, OnStar, and Blue Cross Blue Shield are just a few others to name that have recently moved downtown to Detroit. And also this year, JP Morgan Chase increased its initial $100 million investment by another $50 million. And what JP Morgan Chase was doing, for those of you that don't know, they were actually using the money to lend to small businesses. And they felt by lending small businesses money, it would help the economy. And because of how successful it was, they decided to invest another $50 million. So I think that's a significant increase, and that just goes to show you all the things that are really going on in Detroit. So why Detroit? Everybody talks about these millennials. What are the millennials, right? The young kids, and everybody says that they're going to control the next 20 to 30 or 40 years of the economy. So we're going to talk about millennials a little bit. Elite Daily, the preferred platform for today's hottest issues and trending topics, called Detroit a millennial paradise. So what? But not only do the millennials dictate where to live, what to eat, and how to dress, they represent the biggest generation, 80 million millennials. And they comprise an even greater percentage of the workforce, 50% by 2020. So talk about an insanely huge demographic. We're talking about 50% of the workforce. That's an extremely big number. And they're calling Detroit a millennial paradise. And if you come down to Detroit, you'll see a lot of young kids walking around. It's just a really cool place for that generation to live. So, we have the millennial acceptance, and I think that's a great thing. So everybody keeps hearing this, right? The Detroit, why is it the next Silicon Valley? In a recent op-ed, Techstars managing director Ted Serbinski, an ex-Silicon Valley entrepreneur and investor who is now living in Detroit, explained why Detroit could be the next Silicon Valley. These experts all agree. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Somebody moved from Silicon Valley to Detroit. So he must like what's going on down here. A quote from Forbes: in Metro Detroit, entrepreneurial development and venture capital investment is surging, providing the fuel for further economic growth in the region. So why Detroit? Guys, you got to listen to this one. There's a really big statistic here about the job growth. So since 2010, Detroit Metro has experienced year-over-year employment increases each and every month. Michigan added nearly 100,000 new jobs in 2016 alone. I don't know about you, but that's a pretty big number. 14,000 jobs in leisure and hospitality are expected to be added between 2017 and 2018. Detroit is in the top 10 nationwide in construction job growth. In the first half of 2017 alone, the U.S. auto industry's big three, GM, Ford, and Chrysler, all headquartered in Detroit, announced $2.7 billion in new domestic investments. That's a pretty big investment. Detroit is on Aboto's list of, Detroit's number 10 on Aboto's list of top U.S. metro areas for tech jobs. Detroit workers earn 12 times more in income than what they pay in rent, which is a very interesting statistic, because go back to California, that ratio is completely different. So people like coming here because it's more affordable, they're more comfortable here with their income, and I think that's another big reason why it's such a popular place. Again, the surging home values. I kind of talked about a story earlier today about that very expensive home in East English Village. But as economies expand, a growing demand for real estate drives home values and monthly rents higher. The population is growing in Detroit. Detroit now has more renters than homeowners. There is now an apartment shortage in the city. And they're projecting by 2030, they're going to need an additional 15,000 units built. So I feel like there's a huge opportunity for that market as well. In the last 5 years in Detroit, home values have grown at a faster pace than in any other city in the U.S. at more than 21%. And I think that story about the $219,000 home in East English Village would vouch for that. And you can see here from 2010 to 2015, the average year-over-year increase in the median home value was 21.4%, followed by Pittsburgh, and then Dallas, and then Seattle, and then there were some others closely behind that. So we find that a very interesting statistic. I mean, people that bought property in Detroit back in 2010 turn out to be very great investments for them. So we're very happy with that, but we still think there's a huge opportunity here. I think the properties in these areas that are going for 50, 60, 70,000, they're going to be $150,000 to $200,000 homes in the next 5 to 10 years. We're kind of anticipating. So pretty interesting. So why Detroit? The best bang for your buck. Go Banking Rates considers Detroit a far cheaper investment than any other big city. Forbes said the Detroit housing market is the most undervalued in the entire country. Again, that kind of goes back to our story. Detroit is quoted by the Real Wealth Network that you can purchase a fully renovated rental property in a good B-class neighborhood for only $65,000 and rent them out for $900 per month. Plus, these are properties that used to sell for over $100,000, so that there's a good chance that the values will increase as well, which, you know, we're all projecting that. We think that the surrounding markets have reached their peak value as in 2005. Detroit hasn't gotten there yet, so we feel like there's still a huge opportunity for improvement. And this is like an average price. You know, there's still houses in Detroit for $40,000 to $50,000. But this is just kind of an average number. All right, so moving on to some more real estate things. Secret number 3 would be do not be cheap. Do your due diligence and follow these steps. I think the biggest thing that we see in Detroit is that the newbie investor comes here wanting to buy the cheapest thing they can find. You know, they see ads on Craigslist, they see things on the internet that really don't, in my opinion, paint the best picture for the values of the city. And unfortunately, sometimes people think that because it's on the internet, that's just how the market is. So, you know, you just got to be careful on what you buy. I'm not saying you cannot get a home in Detroit for $30,000. I just don't think it's the property that is going to be a long-term successful investment. So just be careful. So invest for profit. Don't limit yourself to your local market, as we've been talking about. As your initial real estate investment cost may be too high, diminishing any profit you might earn. So, see, when you're in California, I'm sure you could agree. If you only wanted to invest in California, it wouldn't be a fiscal investment. You'd be making 1, 2, 3, 4% on your money if you're lucky. So that's kind of what this means. You know, just because you're in that market doesn't mean that's the only market that you can invest in. It's very easy to invest in other markets. In markets like Detroit, where the median home value is $42,000, not only will your down payment be more affordable, it's likely you'll be able to generate passive cash flow even if you're fully leveraged. So in that situation, you know, your home in Cali, that's $500,000 or $600,000 or $1 million, you're probably going to have a negative cash flow because your P&I is going to be much higher than what the actual income is on the property. So that's kind of what that's explaining. So you're going to want to conduct a detailed analysis of the area, the market growth, the job market, housing market, home values, rental rates. You know, we kind of discussed 100,000 new jobs in Michigan in last year alone. That's a pretty good indicator for the job market. Housing market, we just told you, increased by 21% on average over the last 5 years. So that's another good indicator. And these are things that we look at, and that's why we are so strong on Detroit, and that's why we've been doing this for as long as we have. Secret number 3 continued. Choosing a neighborhood. You know, look at the income levels, skill or schools, amenities, transportation, safety, and cleanliness. Then you're going to want to choose a property. If if the property you're looking at, or the market you're looking at checks off all these marks, then you can start looking for property. So you're going to want to work only with the most reputable investment firms to ensure quality of the property. Is the home in good condition? Has it recently been repaired or repainted? Has it passed local building codes? Does it have a good quality tenant? Are you buying this property already cash flowing? Is the tenant in the home long term? Are they pre-screened, and do they pay on time? What is the annual income? What are the expenses? Annual cash flow and ROI. So, we kind of teach you how to underwrite properties. We give you an investment breakdown and show you all of these things on the property. Okay, so working with Pioneer, what separates one real estate investment firm from the next? And that, of course, is the investment process. The Pioneer Homes investment process is designed to deliver our property investment clients the right rental home in the right place and at the right price, based on each individual's client needs, goals, and risk tolerance. So we've been doing this a very long time. We have kind of really nailed down our process, our due diligence process, our acquisition process, our renovation process, our tenant placement process. A lot of processes here. And there's a lot to it. And I think it goes to say a lot about the real estate investing and why some people are successful and why some people are not. I think there's a lot more to it than just going and buying a property and keeping your fingers crossed that it cash flows. I think there's a lot to it. So we kind of got that figured out, and I feel like that's why we've been so successful. So, that's kind of what Pioneer can bring to the table. All right, C-Wing. So we'll kind of show the crowd a couple sample properties that we have at the end of the slide here. If you have any questions for me, I'd love to answer them now. And if not, I can just keep going through these properties.
You're doing fine. Keep going. Almost.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So at Pioneer, all the properties that we sell have been carefully selected based on the revenue earning potential. They've been fully vetted by our due diligence team and as needed, renovated using the best quality materials. They're all located in safe, clean Detroit and Metro Detroit communities. Most of them come with occupied long-term pre-screened rented tenants. But we also have a purchase vacant and get a fresh renovation after rehab platform as well. So this is a recent property that we had for sale. It's actually a pretty interesting situation that we had here. It's not very often that we get freshly built homes in Detroit, but we kind of ran into a situation where a builder kind of over leveraged himself, ran out of capital, and we were able to capitalize on that situation. So where we normally sell properties that were built back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, we were able to offer our clients some brand new built homes in the city of Detroit. So, just to kind of show you an idea of what an investment would look like. So this particular property sold for $59,000. The monthly rent was, we actually ended up getting more than the $795. I think we got $825, so that increased the ROI closer to 13%. So the taxes were $900 a month, management was $950, insurance was $500. Your monthly net income was probably closer to I'd say $650. And again, we think with that additional $50 or $25, we got that ROI up closer to 13%. So that was a really nice property here. Here's another one, same situation here. This was another property from that particular builder. This was a larger property. It was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. We rented that for $850, which brought a net monthly income of, again, almost $650. So, that's a pretty nice ROI. And, this one, guys, it'd be one of those maintenance-free properties, brand new windows, brand new roof, all updated mechanicals, new kitchen, plumbing, electrical, you name it. It was all spick and span, brand new. So, I think we have a few left in this particular package. So if that was something you'd be interested in, feel free to reach out to C-Wing and he will point you in the right direction. One more here on Maryland. This was also another new build. This was $57,900. Again, we rented this one a little bit higher than we projected. I think this one went for $825 as well. The net monthly income was a tad lower just because the property taxes on this one were a little bit higher than the others. But again, this was close to a 10% ROI. So I'd say this was a pretty solid investment. And the cool thing about this property is it's actually handicap accessible. And I think one of the people that are looking at this are looking to potentially rent it as like an insurance or group home type property, which will, in the long run could be a really good investment for that individual. Here's another one. This is kind of more in line with the typical property that we sell in Detroit. The older home built back in the 50s and 60s. This particular property, 1,000 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths. Home was rented for $800 a month. Your net income monthly was a little over $550 a month, which was close to a 14% ROI. So again, this is more in line with the typical Detroit property. I think the new builds were kind of a special treat for us and for anyone that was with us at the time. But I'd say this kind of represents Detroit more as a sustainable property. This is kind of what you'll see for the most part. And we actually end up throwing a new roof on this property as well. So I know this roof looks a little bit older, but we end up putting a new roof on this property. But you could see some of the street views of this particular home. Really nice brick-lined street, which is what we try to look for. Here are some interior photos of this property. We did the nice two-tone paint, refinished hardwood floors. And it's a little bit more expensive to do this two-tone paint, but we like doing that when the budget allows it, because it just gives that home a newer feel, and we've noticed that it helps us get tenants a little bit quicker. So some more photos of the inside. Again, the nice finished hardwood floors, two-tone paint. Here's a photo of the kitchen, the bedroom and bathroom. All right, and then here's another property. This is another one we have in East English Village, which is, yes, the East English Village. I told you there's a home for $219,000 for sale today. This one, we're projecting the rent to be $900. Asking price is $63,000. The net monthly income on that would be around $630. And again, it's a nice 12% ROI at that price. So again, another pretty sound investment. And again, this is, more in line with what Detroit looks like. The older 1940s and 50s built brick, kind of historical looking. This is going to be more in tune with what we normally sell. Here's another street view, just surrounded by some really nice properties. And here's some interior shots as well. Again, with the two-tone paint, hardwood floors refinished. You could just see it just makes it look a lot nicer than if we were to paint it all one color. And here, just nice updated kitchen, tile backsplash. Some more two-tone here. So you can see this is a pretty clean home, and the tenant will be real happy with that property. So yeah, if anybody is interested in anything we talked about, feel free to reach out to C-Wing, or you can contact us through our website, info@pioneerhomesus.com. Feel free to contact us at our office line, and that is our social media handle @pioneerhomesus. And I hope everybody learned something today. How do we do, C-Wing?
Yeah, you did very good, Al. By the way, the contact information, we would rather have my investors contact myself, and of course, they know my contact information. And also, Robert Culberson is our consultant that are assisting our clients. So no need to go to the website, because it may reroute the prospect to somewhere else. But yeah,
there you go. That makes sense.
Yeah, no problem. But anyway, yep, this is a very good presentation, Al. You thoroughly cover everything. I believe any kind of questions or objections or concerns that come up is pretty much addressed in this particular presentation. So very, very organized, very clear, very concise presentation. So the bottom line is, for you folks out there, Al's and his team work very hard every single day, and on a weekly basis, he has several homes to sell. And I'm one of the investment club that working with Al's team, but there are other investment clubs that Al has a relationship with as well. And whenever there's a property of the week that comes into the inventory, they go very fast within 24 to 48 hours. That's how quick the properties get sold by either our investors from my network or other investment clubs that Al and his team is working with. So the bottom line is, if you are really serious, folks out there, if you're really motivated, if you're really committed to achieve financial wealth through real estate investing, and you want to buy in Detroit, you must prioritize your time to work with me as your consultant, as your advisor, and work with Robert Culberson, our great Detroit consultant, and we will find a way to get you a property as soon as possible. So procrastination is not a good thing, and we don't know how long this kind of inventory is going to last. When nowhere else in the country you can get this kind of value and this kind of great system, great team that we work with, as Al alluded to. So nowhere else you can buy 45K, 50K, 55K home and get this kind of return, great cash flow, great cap rate, great ROI, what have you. But we don't know how long this kind of inventory is going to last. But nevertheless, Detroit is going to be an amazing opportunity. I'm very excited to work with Pioneer Homes and Al. We have a same chemistry, same philosophy of investing, and so yep, that's pretty much it. And Al, do you have any kind of last minute recap you'd like to share before I let you go?
Yeah, I think you did a really good job of covering everything. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said in regards to the market. We're not sure how long this is going to last. I just know that if somehow, some way Detroit can manage to get Amazon here, that's going to be an amazing influx of not only business, but the population influx will be significant, and the economy itself here will be extremely happy to have that here. So. But other than that, I mean, it's just a great market. There's not many markets like it in the country, and I think that's why we have the demand here that we do. But there's not many places that you can come in and get a 12 to 15% ROI on your investment. So I think you kind of nailed it on the head there, Siwing.
Great. Thank you, Al. Thank you for presenting, and we look forward to working with you and your team. And thank you so much for your time. And I know you're a very, very busy man. Doing a lot of great things for the city of Detroit and for investors from all over the world. Okay, so again, everyone else, thank you for attending. Appreciate all of you to attend, and look forward to helping you guys to achieve your goals through Detroit real estate investment properties. Thank you so much, and have a nice day. Goodbye.